Welcome to my review of the short-lived comic series called IDW 2019 or IDW2. IDW is a publishing company that originally had the rights to make Transformers comics. They had a huge universe running from 2005 to 2018. Imagine reading over a decade of comics. So once they finished that series, they wanted a fresh new start. Problem? They were going to lose their license to make Transformers comics real soon. This series I'll review only ran from 2019 to 2022. It's a quicker read and was collected into 6 volumes. I snagged them all. The breakdown of my review will be 1. I'll talk about the most basic plot summary and the overall threats and ideas of the series without major spoilers. 2. What I liked, favorite characters, story arcs, and ideas. 3. What I disliked, my criticisms. 4. Fun comments and all romantic pairings, I think. 1. So, how does this Autobots vs Decepticons story go? IDW 2019 has a slow build-up. It's a much more political series in my opinion. It wants to show you how the Autobots and Decepticons came to be. The Decepticon cause started as a movement under another name, the Ascenticons. They strive to bring Cybertron glory. As of now, Cybertron is stagnant. Hardly any new Cybertronians are being created, and Energon is dwindling. Megatron is not the original leader of this new rebellious movement. In fact, it was his mother figure, Termagax. The series' first big theme is about how Cybertronians raise the youngest of their kind. When their planet creates life within it, a bot walks out and a huge celebration is thrown. This new bot is assigned to a mentor whose job it is to teach them, help them find a passion in life, and an alt mode. This series begins with Bumblebee being given his own kid, Rubble. By showing Cybertron through the eyes of this child robot, we can be amazed by this very beautiful, complex place. Organic alien life forms live on Cybertron with the Cybertronians. This is notable since the last comic series had Transformers be very opposed to organic life, believing it to be inferior and deserving of extinction. Cybertron in this story begins as quite a peaceful place, and it is claimed that there hasn't been a murder on Cybertron for a very long time. But of course, violence will come. Another political movement called the Rise starts committing murders and terrorist acts. However, the Rise and the Ascenticons aren't really so different. The story of IDW2 shows us how Megatron's movement becomes more and more corrupt, or rather, they were corrupt at the start and the truth became more clear over time. Now I mentioned Megatron's motherly figure, Termagax. She is an important scientific mind, but she is a recluse. She lives in her walking house, definitely inspired by Howl's moving castle. Once she hears about what Megatron has done with her teachings, she opposes him. Optimus, known from the start as Orion Pax, has a mother as well. I'm only saying mother, mind you, because it's cuter. They're just called mentors. His mother Codexa has decided to go immersant, the concept of an immortal Cybertronian feeling done with their immortality and deciding to become one with the planet. She's hardly conscious anymore, so although Orion wants to ask her for advice, she isn't really all that there anymore. Fun fact, Starscream also has a mother figure, but their relationship isn't all that great, and you can hear that full story in another video of mine. As you read about the worsening politics and increasing terrorist attacks, you'll see a previous Cybertronian war being mentioned. The War of the Threefold Spark is a mysterious war that the veteran Cyclonus took part in. We only really find out what it was near the end of the story. This war is the start and the finish of the series. The Autobots and Decepticons fighting each other ruins the planet and accidentally brings back an ancient evil. At this point, let me tell you how doomed they are. Cannibalistic Insecticons are cloned into a horrifying swarm that eat everything in their paths. They even eat the poor organic life forms, and the survivors have to be sent off-world. Hungry rustworms once contained in one area of Cybertron break free and spread across the planet, destroying the land and eating anyone in their path. The Decepticons killed almost every Titan warrior. Exarchon, a living virus, is nerfed. Exarchon caused the War of the Threefold Spark. Once a normal Cybertronian, he traveled space and was changed by an alien force. Exarchon is a soul/spark that can infect other sparks. He can take over bodies, but only 3 at once, hence the name of the war. Anyone he takes over is doomed to die, and he becomes them. So he switches bodies as he pleases. Now, he's determined to infect Primus, the heart of their planet, corrupting him and becoming the new god. Yeah, it's such a dire situation that the Autobots and Decepticons have to pause their fight just to deal with these threats. I'm not going to tell you how or if they are successful, but these are the stakes at the end of the series. So what did I like most about IDW 2019, and how does it stand out? This series is extremely imaginative and stuffed with brand new concepts and characters. It brings a lot of new possibilities for the future of Transformers comics and shows. We know how Transformers reuses previous concepts over and over, but changes what they are like for freshness. IDW2 seems to have a 50-50 female-to-male cast, which has never happened before this series. They created a lot of female characters just to make it possible. That gives us more possible options for future media. For example, Javelin, Accelerator, Termagax, Codexa, and Leviathan. It also gives obscure characters more importance, such as Trick Diamond, Strika, and Jumpstream. Jumpstream is made into the Autobot equivalent of Skywarp. Characters have very interesting designs too, and I'm inspired myself to use them in my own series. I like the look of Straxus, for example. The kindness to aliens was refreshing after the powerful hatred toward them in IDW 2005. We were given cute little alien animals, and the scenes of Cybertronians being very polite, peaceful, and protective about organic life is so nice. Prowl had a little pet himself. I would say IDW 2019 was very interested in cultures, and had a few comics dedicated to Cybertronians studying aliens. No humans though, they never discovered Earth. Anyway, the series is eager to show you beautiful, unique things, but is rather heavy in the details, which I'll get back to as a possible criticism. I definitely like this series, although I do find it kind of boring. I find the story too slow for me, but I'm enamored by the concepts and the art. The art is quite colorful and fun to look at, and the backgrounds are well designed, so often I'm taking pictures for references for my own work. I don't really have many favorite characters, but I love the cute Freud in this series. He isn't at all evil, and he's a pitiful thing. I think I was quite interested in anything Cyclonus was doing too. The best stories, I believe, were any time the series paused to focus on a small group of characters. I like the start of the series from Rubble's perspective, the backstory of the Constructicons, the Cliffjumper vs. Deathsaurus story, the Gage escaping a cult story, and the story of Starscream and his mom. This leads into my biggest criticism of the series, however. There are just too many characters being given attention. An overwhelming amount of bots are introduced. I knew half of them at least, like Bumblebee, Windblade, Wheeljack, etc. But imagine a new reader picking up the series and being thrown 200 characters. I had to reread the series a couple of times before I started to remember who was who and what was happening. Because the story is constantly switching perspectives, you couldn't easily become invested in anyone. It's too zoomed out. It makes the reader mostly watch from a distance what the characters are doing, when they aren't following a viewpoint of a single character at a time. This makes it really hard to immerse yourself in emotions. Many mysteries were wiped clean by a character wondering what was going on, and then the next panel showed the Decepticons discussing their plans. At the end of the day, I found myself hardly caring about anyone. If someone died, it wouldn't matter to me. Except maybe Freud. But while he appeared frequently in the start of the series, he just completely disappears when the war starts and is never seen again. I found it odd that the series, doomed to have a short run, didn't just stick to using a small cast. It felt like Bumblebee, for example, was set out to be the main character, but then they threw him aside when he didn't seem relevant to the plot anymore. I know IDW 2019 also wanted to have neurodivergent and mental health representation. Geomodus seemed to be the autistic representation. Cyclonus, Javelin, and Landmine suffered from trauma. Subsea seemed to have anxiety. I just wished more time had been given to them. Geomodus and Cyclonus had more relevance at least. When it came to Javelin, Landmine, and Subsea, I can't easily recall how important they were. Because so many characters were given panel time, these characters came across as tokenism. Perhaps you'll disagree, but I felt like emotional depth and character growth was lacking in this series, especially after it moved on from Bumblebee's story. IDW 2019 wanted to show way too much, and ended up showing only a little of everything. I'm also a huge lover of cultures and languages, and even I thought the excess jargon was boring. Like anything Nautica gushed about languages and cultural differences, I understood, but I don't think long paragraphs explaining things will interest everyone. There's a lot of talking in this series, less action. Yes, there is action, but a lot of slow bits. It really requires patience and to be a lover of world building to enjoy this series. Finally, I think the pacing wasn't effective. For me, they took so long to explain certain concepts that by the time they did explain them, I had lost interest. For example, the War of the Threefold Spark is introduced right at the start, but isn't elaborated on until 5 books later. It would have been nice to get some flashbacks earlier. 5 books is a long wait. Another long wait was that it took Orion Pax 4 books before he came Optimus Prime. This series is 6 books, so you see, now he has only 2 books to be a Prime. The series is almost done by that point, and it's speedily trying to wrap itself up. I think it was a good call ending on the Exarchan theme, but it was disappointing that what happens next between the Autobots and Decepticons will never be known. It's a cliffhanger. Here comes the spoiler, skip ahead if you want to miss it. The series ends on the Autobots leaving Cybertron on the Ark, so now what? It's left to our imaginations, and it's sad because IDW 2019 began such a massive and creative universe as though they wanted to go further, but then couldn't. It was like how Season 3 of Transformers Prime spent so much time collecting fossils and cloning Predacons just to completely scrap the Predacons and hastily end the show. So, how about we lighten the mood and talk about which pairings were in IDW 2019? IDW 2005 was known for including a lot of romance, and while some loved it, others hated it. I'll tell you now that IDW 2019 has very few confirmed pairings, and they're not as plot relevant as, for example, Chrome Dome and Rewind in More Than Meets the Eye. The physical affection shown is also minimal. For a Valentine's special, there was Glyph times Tap Out. Glyph researches a newly discovered alien planet and has to translate the dominant species' language. Tap Out comes along as their bodyguard and impresses the aliens with his fighting skill. Cosmos times Blast Off is another Valentine's Day pairing, as lonely space rescuer Cosmos is kept company by a friendly voice radioing him. Eventually, they meet up in real life. Greenlight times RC gets the most attention as they struggle to protect their kid Gage during the war. They share kisses and kick ass. Knockout times Breakdown has returned with lots of Knockout flirting and Breakdown protecting him. They get the kiss too. Lastly, Cyclonus times Paragon is heavily implied. Cyclonus imagines his dead friends following him around like ghosts, but the one hardest for him to come to terms with his loss is Paragon. Nautica was also a romantic interest of many, but she seemed more focused on her work. Freud had no chance of her, and Road Rage was trying for her attention as well. Now as a closing comment, I'll say I wish I had seen Overlord, Sunder, or DJD characters in the story, but they weren't there. Since Freud was changed so much, along with others, it would have personally interested me to see what changes Overlord, Sunder, and the DJD would have had. But alas, there are too many Transformers characters, so you can't please everyone and show them all. There were already too many as it were. My advice for reading IDW 2019 is yes, read it, but take your sweet time. Focus on the beautiful art on each page and try to get to know who is being introduced. You could get scrambled up by reading too fast. Be prepared for a slow story, and know that it is focused on politics and culture more than anything.